the first Joker movie? No. Do I know anything about DC? Also no, but this ridiculous tweet flung itself out of the DC Twitter containment and hit the musical theater community harder than the performers in Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. Anyway, as a professional musical theater performer and songwriter, I could not resist the urge to rant and give space for my audience to also rant with me about whatever the this is supposed to mean. Todd Philips doesn't want to label Joker 2 a musical. Most of the music in the movie is really just dialogue. It's just Arthur not having the words to say what he wants to say, so he sings them instead. Now, when I saw Twitter ratio this into the abyss, pause for some hilarious tweets, by the way, I thought to myself, surely they're just taking this out of context to get attention, right? No one would say anything so stupid considering this is what a musical really is. I generously went into this article thinking and hoping that he meant contrary to what people think, as in the people that hate musicals think X or Y, but actually, music in a musical is the same as dialogue. This is a valid and still serious way to tell a story. This is still an artistic storytelling medium where a dark, gritty, whatever story can take place. Don't look down on it. That's what I thought he was going to say. No. Reading the article did not provide any nuance or context to this take. In fact, the take is exactly what you think it is, and it gets worse. I clearly gave too much benefit of the doubt because he actually goes on to compare Joker 2 to another movie musical, In the Heights, in a way that is completely disrespectful, despite his, no offense, tee-hee little thing that he did right there. And if it wasn't clear enough, by the way, I don't even go here, okay? I don't follow the actors or the directors. I don't even know celebrities, really. I'm being so serious. If you watch my other videos, you know that I don't know anything in terms of pop culture. And so if you hate them for, like, ruining DC and the Joker and making things woke or something, like, that's not why I'm here. I don't care. I don't care if you think that he ruined the Joker. Why I am here is because musicals somehow got disrespected during this article. Again, I've talked about this before. I don't really like live action things that aren't musicals unless they're like old as hell or period pieces or horror or thriller movies. I don't really like live action movies, okay? Come for me if you want. So I don't have this like encyclopedic knowledge about every single thing that the actors or the directors have ever said or done. I don't really care about who they are. I don't even care about the other stuff that they've done professionally. All I care about is this truly horrible take, and the fact that this man is either extremely pretentious and like truly thinks he's inventing some mysterious third genre, right? Or he's just a cowardly hack who knows that this is a musical and is too afraid to admit it and lose his target audience. So I want to go through this article piece by piece and talk about every single thing wrong with it. And it's hilarious because the article even makes reference to what I was talking about. Like, are they saying that this is not a musical because they are afraid of losing the demographic of young men? And this is a quote from the article, but will moviegoers, particularly the young men who form the bulk of the audience for comic book flicks, show up for that? Philips is banking on their appetite for something new and different at a time when the movie business is primarily interested in retreads and reboots. And this just comes off as having a lack of self-awareness to me, because this is not only a movie which focuses on a very famous comic book character, but a sequel to a movie that was already made and box office successful, right? So when audiences talk about creative bankruptcy and a lack of original ideas in this industry, you'll see it a lot, especially in relation to Disney and D23 that just happened. People are like, there's no original stuff going on, it's all sequels. It's all retreads, reboots, and sequels, not just reboots, okay? So I think it's how convenient for Todd Philips to leave that out. Sequels are what is dominating the discussion from my perspective in terms of the reboot thing, like, or remakes or whatever. Like, only really Disney is doing that. In terms of the sequel thing, every studio is doing that. Anyway, I just think if he was being truthful, we would have to acknowledge that this movie, Joker 2, right? It's a second of something that was already successful. It is already capitalizing on the success of an already existing IP instead of truly making something original. Not only in the fact that it already has like a movie that exists, like a predecessor before it, but also in the fact that it is about a famous comic book character that has the IP grabbing power. And so this immediately rubbed me the wrong way because it reads as like the artistic equivalent of like, I'm not like the other girls. We'll talk about that multiple times. How is this any different than Disney making Toy Story 5.5 or whatever the fuck they're doing, or superhero franchises getting movie after movie? How is this any different? What they should have done, right? In my other life, I was a public relations person. I have a public relations degree. So from my perspective, if I was giving this man some PR training, I would have said that it would be interrogating a familiar character in a new way, right? And taking the risk out of pure passion for the medium of musical theater. Not to disparage everybody else in the movie industry. Instead, it should have been, I know that I am working with something that is established. However, unlike those things, I hope that I'm interrogating this in a way that it has never been seen before. But that's not what he said. All he said was, well, the movie industry is doing this, I'm different. Are you? Because I don't think that you are. As the article continues from this point, like red flag number 1 right here. I wish I had one so I could wave it around. Oh my goodness, where's my pointer thing? I totally forgot. This is the red flag today. You guys must have been so shocked. I'm sure there's comments about where did the pointer go. Anyway, so the problem is, as this article continues, it just seems like there is no respect for the medium, and that this risk-taking was not for the sake of art, it was for the sake of ego. And I have a big problem with that. We have seen the circus tent, but there is no evidence of the clowns just yet that are inside it. So we see evidence of clowns. We haven't seen the clowns. So the clowns are coming. Let's keep going, okay? This is why I guess I needed to do my little quotation marks, right? Most of the music in the movie is really just dialogue, Phillips says. It's Arthur not having the words to say what he wants to say, so he sings them instead. We'll interrogate that in a minute. Then we go on to say, Phillips hasn't quite landed on the proper way to categorize it yet. I just don't want people to think it's like In the Heights, where the lady in the bodega starts to sing and they take it out onto the street, and the police are dancing, he says, pointing out that most of the musical numbers exist in Arthur and Lee's warped imaginations. No disrespect, because I love In the Heights. Disrespect fully received, sir. Just because you say no disrespect doesn't mean that disrespect was not here. So let me see if I understand this correctly. Instead of trying to encourage young men, the target audience for this movie, that musicals are not just for the girls, the gays, and the theys, though I'm sure that the audience for this movie, at least some of them, would use some 4chan words to replace what I just said. Like, we are going to just be delusional and pretend that this is somehow not a musical. Instead of reinforcing to your audience of men that it is okay to feel emotions, you are trying to be like, well, our musical is built different. Musical theater is not a genre, it's a medium of storytelling. If you are using music to progress the plot forward, whether it's in the mind of someone with a warped imagination or not, that is still a musical. There are musicals where everyone is aware that they are singing. There are musicals where no one is aware that they are singing. There are musicals where the characters see musical numbers or even entire characters as like hallucinations, like they're not real, because the character is going through some sort of major mental health issue. It doesn't make them suddenly not musicals just because it's in a character's mind. Someone who likes musicals, or at the very least has any respect for the medium, would know this. Thank God that we have Todd Philips here to make a musical that's not like the other girls, and it's so quirky and different and edgy and dark, like, you know, practically one of the boys. No one has ever done this before. Like, are you fucking kidding me? If I am really generous and try to drain my skull of my brain cells, I can understand maybe what he was trying to say. Like, this is not a world where breaking out into song is the normal way of things, right? It's still the real world, and the musical is taking place in a delusion. To everyone else, breaking out into song for no reason is still crazy. It's not acceptable. But that artistic choice doesn't make it a different medium. That's a difference in world building, not a difference in the medium of storytelling. Also, again, can we circle back to the other stupid shit that was said about the dialogue thing? Again, I really thought that this was gonna go for musicals should be respected as a serious medium of storytelling, and you should think about musicals like this. No, instead, he's like, oh, as opposed to all those other musicals where apparently characters sing for no reason, right? They don't sing to deliver dialogue. My characters are built different. My characters will be there to deliver dialogue, which is a stupid fucking thing to say because all musicals are here to deliver dialogue through the music. Bob Fosse is famously quoted as saying, "The time to sing is when your emotional level is too high just to speak anymore, and the time to dance is when your emotions are too strong to only sing about how you feel." It has always been this character does not have the words to express how they feel, so they sing. That is the conceit of a musical. You have given us the definition of a musical, sir. And even when it comes to like music as dialogue, this is the point of including a song in a musical. Yes, some old-timey musicals do have filler songs that are just kind of for fun, but especially in a movie musical where you don't have time to fuck around, famous lyricists like Howard Ashman, who, you know, pioneered the animated movie musical and knew that there was no time to fuck around, strongly believed that if you could cut a song from a show and the audience could still understand what was going on, you failed. The medium was more refined in terms of film and especially animated film because they didn't have time for the filler songs that stage has sometimes. And the reason why the stage has those filler songs is for a utility purpose. It's like, we need a song here because the leads need to get changed. Not every song in a musical is fully necessary, sure, but Todd Phillips should know better and know that nowadays stuff has been optimized better. We aren't in the golden age anymore, right? You know, where there's filler songs and people just dicking around. We are at a time when that sort of planning has gotten better, and now most musicals try to avoid doing that because they really believe in, I guess, the Howard Ashman way of thinking. The song needs to be placed in such a way that it conveys the important dialogue. A song not only helps with the memory retention, but it helps to focus and magnify key aspects of the story so it's crystal clear to the audience. And a song also helps to facilitate the emotional connection between the audience and the characters. And so in the past, sure, were some songs frivolous? Yeah, but like, most of the music in the movie is really just dialogue as opposed to what? That's what all musicals try to do nowadays because we've gotten better. We've refined the craft. You'll hardly find a musical that doesn't ascribe to that sort of idea and they're having a song just, you know, for the shits and giggles. This reads to me as him thinking that in other musicals the singing is frivolous. Like, it's just for fun. Like, it's all a shallow spectacle that has no emotion. And that doesn't read to me as someone who has any actual respect for the medium. It feels like he doesn't think that musicals on their own are capable of good storytelling because it has all this, oh, you know, frivolous things. Thank God that Todd Phillips has come in, has swooped in to come fix the musical medium of storytelling. Like, I feel like that he is imposing his beliefs on what makes a good story onto a storytelling medium he thinks is bad. We're trying to do that. We're trying to make sure everything is important. As if, like, we haven't learned that, at least since Howard Ashman came onto the scene, bro, and started, you know, teaching people, and he's not the only one. I'm just saying he's my favorite one. Sondheim even had this mentality. Like, so I'm like, bro's on to nothing! Bro has no point! Bro don't make no sense! Like, what was this supposed to mean? And speaking of Sondheim, okay, I have a quote from Sondheim. He said, "If you're dealing with a musical in which you are trying to tell a story, it's got to sound like speech. At the same time, it's got to be a song. Something that sounds like dialogue is the point. Not having words to express how you really feel, so you sing instead, is the point." Of all musicals, it's just so pretentious and just astounding to me that someone can get this high off their own supply, because this entire article is like, oh, we're so scared shitless, it's so bold and different and dangerous. Like, give me a fucking break. Okay, so the article goes on to say that they wanted to create a raw, more unstable sound, fluctuating between euphoria and despair, even if that occasionally required singing off-key. You have some quotes from Lady Gaga in here. "It was important to me we never perform the songs as one typically does in a musical. We don't want vibrato and perfect notes. Instead, the goal was to do something nerve-wracking but honest." And this is not the man. This is, I'm pretty sure, the guy that plays the Joker saying this. And then Gaga plays Harley Quinn. And she said, like, they're not professional singers. They shouldn't sound like they are. Lady Gaga said that. This one in particular super pissed me off. Like, if you don't think I'm mad, I'm more mad about this than anything else. And here's an anecdote from musical theater school, right? I once got a note where the director said, "Stop singing so perfectly. Instead, let yourself fail horribly as long as the emotion comes out." And the point of my director doing that was that I thought In my head, I had stopped being perfect. I thought when I did certain things, I was off key. I thought I had failed. But after doing what he suggested, he turned to the class and said, "Don't you see how she still sounds perfect, but she just sounds perfect and emotional?" Like, I was so afraid of sounding bad, I was holding back. The point that he made was that I have nothing to fear because the technique and the muscle memory in terms of hitting the notes and stuff, like when you do the work, it doesn't matter. You can take the risk to sound more angry, let's say, and it won't fuck up your notes because you have the foundation of that training. And so when you are a professional, the point is that you're able to do both. You're able to sound good and you're able to be emotional at the same time. These two things are not incompatible with each other. And of course, there are times where I'm not perfect. I want to be clear, right? Because obviously, like, we make mistakes all the time, especially live. As long as you're in it and the story is believable, people will follow with you. They won't be like, that note was terrible, so now I'm totally out of the story. If it was believable for me to do that, the audience would still be immersed in the story. Clarity of voice is to help clarity of story. And you can have like growling and anguish and all that imperfection because imperfection is human, but it needs to be done with a purpose. And what rubs me the wrong way about this basically is that it sounds like the actors were not told to just don't worry about how bad you sound sometimes. Like, don't worry about it as long as like the emotion is front and center. It sounds like they were told to perform badly because they saw the technical skill of theater vocalists as somehow dishonest and insincere. And that really bothers me. Perfection is not dishonest. You can be perfect and honest at the same time. Like, what comes to mind when they talk about unstable sound is Sweeney Todd, which, first of all, did whatever the fuck the Joker is doing. That's the first musical that came into my head where I was like, fucking really? Absolutely no respect for the musicals that came before you that were literally about, killing people and whatever, like all of this dark shit that happens in Sweeney Todd, right? You suddenly think that your thing is so much darker and edgy and real, okay? Anyway, so my point is with Sweeney Todd, it uses the skill of the vocalists to elevate the dark subject matter. They didn't make the singers hold themselves back as if that makes the story better because, Sweeney Todd can't sing. He's a barber, so he should sound bad. It sounds like this is like a cinema sins type thing to do. This is to counteract people on the internet that are like, well, if the Joker and Harley don't know how to sing, why do they sound so good? Like, it's the same people that are like, if Ariel knows how to sign her name, why didn't she just write to Eric what happened? Like, and then in the Little Mermaid remake, they got rid of Ariel writing her name on the contract. She sacrifices her blood instead in order to fix that plot hole. Like, it seems like that they did this just to kind of service those really annoying people. It wasn't to service the story. But let's say, okay, they don't want the vibrato and the perfect notes or whatever as an artistic choice. Theater does this too. Like, have you ever been to a live theater? People aren't perfect every night. You can't get it 100% every night. Theater showcases imperfection because it is live, so I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, we want to do things different than how it typically goes in a musical. Like, do you mean a cast recording? Like, a cast recording is perfect because it's pre-recorded. But like, what do you mean as opposed to how it's typically done in a musical? Musicals are imperfect every night because they're fucking live, bro. Like, I'm just flabbergasted. Okay, and again, more than the off-key thing or whatever, Lady Gaga, what she said bothers me. I also read the Wikipedia page and she said more things that bother me, and I'll throw that up here. It sounds like they are going to sound horrendous on purpose, and it's for a shallow purpose, not for the purpose of art. Just because, like, well, the characters don't know how to sing, so this is more realistic. It's not, we were so emotional, like, when we needed to be, and we made sure that took priority over sounding perfect. Like, this is, again, cinema sin ass bullshit. This is a preemptive defense of getting well actually'd by YouTube critics, which is not a good reason to do something. And like Lady Gaga even says, she removed all the technicality of like as a trained professional singer down to her breathing. You're telling me, okay, you've lost the dude bros already that thinks that musicals are, for the alphabet mafia or whatever. You've lost those people, so now you need the musical theater fans to show up. So you're telling me, as somebody who likes musicals, you're saying to me directly, you're telling me I get to spend my hard-earned money going to the theater and listening to two people who usually are good singers sound bad on purpose, like lucky fucking me. Why? Why would I do that? And if it's in their imagination, why can't they sing perfectly in their head? Why not have the contrast to in their head they sing perfectly, but everybody hears some horrible off-key garbage? Like, that would be a way to showcase your point. I haven't seen the movie yet, but the way that it sounded was that the musical numbers only take place in the inner world. And so why not showcase like that in the inner mind it's perfect and they're perfect singers, but then everybody else hears some like off-key bullshit? Why subject us in the imagination to the off-key bullshit? And again, we'll see when the movie comes out, I guess, but no, it sounds like they're off-key bad all the time. That's how this quote makes it sound. And if that's not the point that they wanted to get across, again, PR training, guys, because this is the impression that it left for me. Here's the thing about this video, right? I'm not saying that any of my interpretations of this person or these people are correct. I'm not saying that this is how the movie is going to be based on what they said. I am saying that what they said makes me not want to go see the movie, and it made me come on here with the purpose of wanting people to not go see the movie. Like, I came on here out of spite to tell people, no, if you like musicals, don't go see this. Don't go support this, because this person has no respect for what a musical is. And so I wanted to use my tiny little power, no matter how many subscribers I don't have or whatever. Like, I wanted to use the smidgen of influence I have to tell people not to go see it because it made me mad. So that's why we're here. I'm not saying I've interpreted them entirely correctly. I'm not saying that the movie will be bad just because they said these things. I am saying that the fact that they said these things and said them so badly, right, is what has put me off from watching the movie. I was also going to say that in musicals like Hunchback, for example, you have Quasimodo who has trouble speaking, and they did that to make it more true to the novel, but then when he sings alone, he sings perfectly, because it's to showcase, even though people have trouble understanding him, even though he has trouble speaking, his inner world is rich and eloquent and poetic, and that's his imagination. Like, that's in his imagination too. They don't have him singing in broken words or to be raspy all the time, like how he speaks, just because it would be more realistic. They made sure to show the divide, because what we want to do is use the singing to show his deepest desires and vulnerabilities, and like, despite on the outside, he is just like you. He has the rich inner life that you also have. He can be eloquent and poetic. It's just that people don't take the time to listen, and because of his, speech disabilities and other things that he has in that musical, it is hard for him to say what he really wants to say, but in his head, he can say it perfectly. So, like, why not do something like that? Why do something that give, at least the impression that I get is that it's going to be even in their inner world, well, they aren't singers, so we made sure they sung off key. One last thing, does no one ever learn? So in the article, they talk about how they recorded it live, accompanied by a piano player, and they just synced a bunch of different takes together. And they also say in the article that, like, we want people to think this was made by crazy people. Well, I do think that. That doesn't mean I want to go see it, but anyway, we have seen other movie musicals record live, like how they've apparently done In Pursuit of Authenticity, and it's been terrible. So why would you go with that method when time and time again we see the problem with singing live on set, right? No one has got it right. Other YouTubers have made so many videos about the problems with that and how it's different to live theater. So it just baffles me that, like, oh, for authenticity we did this. Well, we've seen other movies do it too and no one pulled it off. Like, no one's done it right. The big twist here is that I was wondering to myself, like, why is this dude talking about the musical aspect? I know he's the director, whatever. I know it's an interview with Todd Philips, right? But, like, the actors are quoted multiple times through this. So I was sitting there and I was like, why is this guy not even talking about the composer and lyricist and, like, the process of working with them or anything like that? Like, where are they hiding them, right? Why won't they talk about the people that are working on the music for the movie when they're talking about the musical aspect of the movie? And then I remembered this was originally announced as a Jukebox musical when the news first broke, okay? Allegedly, according to Wikipedia, I guess, there's only going to be one or two original songs. Apparently, the rest of the songs are going to be from already existing things. And so, what gets me about this? I hate jukebox musicals, right? But what gets me about this is that this entire article reeks of arrogance and someone needing to be humbled, and the musical is not even wholly original. Like, according to Todd Philips, he invented this radical idea of characters singing about their feelings for the first time, but the majority of the music is not even going to be created to convey their feelings. It's going to be other bands, like my brother in Christ, who are making a musical in a subcategory that no one has managed to get right since Mamma Mia! And you are being this much of a pretentious asshole about it! Like, what the fuck are you thinking, right? Because at least, if the music was entirely original, I could give him one pass. But how are you going to be this pretentious about, well, the characters are singing how they feel? But it wasn't written for the characters to sing about how they feel. It was written by a band or like some other individual talking about how they feel. The music won't even be unique to the character in the same way an original song is. And like, listen, this may be a controversial opinion, right? Because I hate jukebox musicals, like I said. I think they're cash grabs. I think that most of the time they're really soulless. It's just to kind of trick people that don't like musicals into going to see a musical because like, oh, well, the music's from Queen. I already like Queen, so I'll go see it. Like, it's basically a concert. It's very loosely combined together, like it's very loosely threaded together, again, to trick people that don't like musicals into watching a stage show that has music that they already like. So again, hot take, but you know, I hate jukebox musicals, and I could talk about that in its own video if you guys want me to. But what's hilarious to me is that there's just so much like pretension and whatever, and they're insisting somehow like this sequel musical is like changing musical theater forever, but they didn't even bother to write characters their own songs. Nothing's entirely original about this. Like, oh, well, we're not doing retreads and reboots like the rest of the box office. You have one or two original songs that talk about the Joker's true feelings, and then you're gonna get, you know, fucking Coldplay or something. Like, I don't know who's gonna be in this movie, but I'm just thinking, hilarious. I have hilarious choices in my head. Like, you're like, oh yes, this is so serious. Joker singing about his emotions, and then it's like Enemy from Imagine Dragons, and that's what he's singing. Like, that's what I'm thinking, right? Holy shit. So it's just hilarious to me because I'm like, you're not even writing original music for the characters. You're a fucking idiot. This is why I was motivated by rage and to get my feelings out. Musical theater is nothing if not honest, and so this is just so incredibly disrespectful. What a terrible professional take to have. There is nothing more honest than a character singing about their deepest vulnerabilities and desires, like letting all the masks that they may put on for the sake of others fall away, and then that character genuinely connecting to the audience through song. Musical theater, to me, has always felt like the most emotional, honest, and raw art form. And I know that some people may find that controversial, especially if you're watching this as a big film buff, but from my perspective, as someone who is autistic and had problems throughout my childhood with, I think I understand people pretty well. It's other people's behavior that rubbed me the wrong way, like the social politics of other people, tiptoeing and dancing around things and being shady, like instead of just talking about how you feel and like the reverse psychology. Like, I understand and read people very well. However, what a lot of neurotypical people do is they'll do like reverse psychology and they'll play games with you and all of that stuff, right? And so I think that the reason why I like musicals is because they are so direct. You cannot find anything more direct than a character literally singing to you and telling you how they feel. Like, the world would be better if we all broke out in a song and just were honest about our feelings, right? And so, again, I don't look down on film or anything, but to me, there is nothing more honest, and that gets to the root of a character with more clarity and directness. So what rubs me the wrong way about this entire article is that it really does sound like that they think that musical theater is shallow because it is also pleasant sounding, and that, you know, film is somehow the more honest and authentic way to tell a story. Like, musical theater is all sunshine and rainbows and people are happy all the time, and that it's kind of like the animation versus live action debate, like how people are like, well, animation is for children and so live action is the version that adults are supposed to watch. I feel like that this is that discourse repackaged into, well, musicals are the silly version and then the movie is the better one. Right? The movie gets to be serious and gritty because musicals can't be that. You can be deep and meaningful and dark and gritty, right? And melodic and pleasant, right? It's not a competition. You don't need to pit those things against each other. You can be pleasant to listen to, but also deep and full of anguish and stuff. And the pleasantness doesn't come from like, you know, again, sunshine and rainbow pleasantness. It comes from the pleasantness in terms of the actual musical composition. I guess the best way way to explain it is that pleasantness is not happy tunes. Pleasantness, to me anyway, if something is pleasant to listen to, it's because the lyrics of for the character, the characterization of the character, and then the music all match each other. That's what makes something to me pleasant, is that it all coexists and kind of harmonizes together, and it works together to create something. Where something becomes unpleasant is when you get like way too much conflict between the character and the lyrics and the composition. And you know, most people take that unpleasantness as being off key, but you can also get unpleasantness through character assassination, right? If this doesn't seem like the words that a character would say or how they would sing or something like that. And so to me, it's just so clear that they think that musicals are shallow in some way or have some sort of shallowness, and that the team behind this movie thinks they're doing something different because their characters express emotion, as opposed to all those other musicals where there wasn't any emotion. Which made me ask, who the fuck is this monstrosity for? Because a huge portion of the audience that the Joker attracts, again, is going to think that the characters singing about their feelings is too alphabet mafia and woke coded for their taste. Like, this isn't what the Joker is supposed to be, probably. But the people that like musical theater, like me, who have not seen the first Joker movie, but like we're at least a little bit willing to give this a chance, I'm not going to spend my hard-earned money here to fuel the ego of this pretentious man who clearly has no understanding or respect for my profession as a professional musical theater performer and songwriter, but also no respect or understanding of what makes a musical special. And so you're asking yourself, you've pissed everybody off. You've pissed off your main audience, and you've pissed off the audience that you were trying to get into the theater. So who's going to be here? And I know that the first movie was successful, so part of me thinks that this is going to be too big to fail, but just because something generates a lot of money doesn't mean that it's good, right? Lion King, live action, as if they actually got live lions in there, right, is kind of proof of that, how much money that made, despite not being very good. And so, even if it's successful, I don't think it's gonna be good. Because there's nothing in here that indicates that this was done out of like genuine passion. It all just seems so much, there's just so much ego, and I just see through that. And I think that a lot of musical theater people, because, you know, musical theater people are sort of the unloved cousin in terms of like live action actors. You know, there are people that do both, but theater tends to be disrespected a lot more. I think that we see through bullshit a little bit more. I'll keep this very vague, but they like had beef. They had like live action beef, like for this specific reason and other reasons. And so anyway, theater people, whether professionally or people that like theater, are not going to want to spend their money on this. Like, if I somehow see this movie, maybe by, you know, sailing on the seven seas, I don't know, like somehow I find it without spending a dime, like, I'm just gonna be there to make fun of you because I don't think that this is going to be good. So I don't know who let them do an interview like this that would end up absolutely alienating everyone. And so if you learned anything from this video, PR Klaxon came out. I know that I'm not being very PR friendly right now, but I stand by everything I said. You need to know what bridges you want to burn, and I have no interest in working in film ever. I don't like film acting, and so I would not do it, and so I don't care. If I were your PR manager, I would have to retrain all of you, because the lesson at the end of this video is not even about like what makes a musical, it's about what makes bad publicity. And there is absolutely nothing in this article that wouldn't fill a musical theater fan with rage. Someone needs to retrain these people, because when you speak like this, it really does seem like you're disparaging an art form that's similar to the animation and live action debate. Like, animation fans and live action fans already have a lot of conflict with each other, and so now, because of how movie musicals have been going in the past couple of years, basically, there's a lot of movie fan beef with musical theater movie fan beef, and musical theater goers feel like that musicals have been very disrespected recently. There are a bunch of YouTube videos about this. Like, if you look at like musical theater phobia, I think I watched a video like that. You're going to create more of a divide and more of a discourse at people that are already unhappy with the state of the movie musical recently, because for someone like me, Disney isn't doing anything new. No new original musical project. You have Moana 2, but that's not original and that's not new. No Disney princess new movie confirmation at D23. And so, you know, people are like, oh, well, we need to support animation. Somebody on Twitter actually asked me, they're like, oh, is the only thing that matters to you whether or not it's a musical? And I was like, well, yes, that is all that matters to me. Are you telling me, and you're gonna look me straight in the face and say that I need to go watch the beaver brain swap movie in theaters if I want to support original stuff, because I don't want to support everything original just because it's original. I want to support things that are good. And that movie may be good, but it won't be good for me. I like my movies to be musicals, and Disney isn't doing anything on that front. When you look at other movie musicals that came out, like Mean Girls and Wonka and all that stuff, they are fundamentally ashamed to be musicals. And, you know, in Mean Girls' case, they turned the score and all the songs into more of a pop score because they were ashamed of being a musical. This is almost like shame to the 10th degree, where you're so ashamed that you are disparaging the medium and the fan base that would have been here in terms of a musical theater fan base. So I guess Wicked will come save us, because that's coming out in a couple months. And there's also an animated movie, I think it's called Spellbound, that is by Netflix, and it has Glenn Slater and Alan Menken working on it. And they also seem to be ashamed because they put, I think, Don't Stop Believing in their trailer instead of any of the original music. So that's distressing. And so anyway, what was I saying? Something about conflict discourse. Like, is this helping? Is this helping all the musical theater people that are pissed off about the state of the movie musical right now? No, it's not helping. Get some PR training and come back, but I think I will still be unhappy. But I do feel better now. I feel better now that I talked about this with all of you guys. I hope you guys learned something, maybe, or you just came here to have some catharsis. That's okay too. I appreciate it, because this is kind of a different type of video compared to what I usually do, but I needed to do it. I needed to do it because I was so mad, and I feel like that this will help. This has been Calaxin caring way too much. Hopefully next time we'll talk about something that is actually worth your time and attention, and I will see you later. Bye!